The scene is at the door before entering the therapy session. Jade shows a worried expression on her face, while muttering to herself softly.
I really need to go to this session as I can't go on living my life like this. I want to feel like myself again. Ever since the COVID-19 outbreak, my personality and behavior has negatively been affected. The world is COVID-free for almost 2 years now, yet I still feel my heart palpitating every time I enter a room full of people. I'm always anxious and scared in social settings. I barely eat well or sleep properly anymore. I'm no longer a social butterfly like I was prior to the pandemic. I'm withdrawn, angry and very unsociable. The fact that I can't be myself is causing me immense sadness. I feel lonely. The perverse change in my personality is influencing everything in my life. Every time I go on social media I see my friends looking so happy, going on vacations, on dates, getting engaged, married, and having babies. I long for those types of relationships too. I want someone to love me, romance me and share in those types of memories as well. I need to get this help. Therapy is my only option to help me find myself again and find love.
Jade knocks on the therapist's door and proceeds to walk into the room. Good morning, you must be Jade. I am Dr. Roger Hank and you would be having your session with me today. It's such an honor to meet you.
Good morning, it is nice to meet you too.
Please have a seat and make yourself comfortable.
Thank you.
So Jade, please tell me a bit about yourself and what brings you here today.
Well, I am 32 years, I work for a telemarketing company and I love animals. I am mainly here today because I have realized that I have changed so much.
What do you believe has changed about you?
Before the pandemic started I was very outgoing and I loved socializing whilst still being able to keep to myself. I loved being in groups and much more. However, it has now changed. Since the pandemic started I began working from home, could not go outdoors much, and as a result I became much more introverted.
You mentioned that you were both introverted and extroverted. Is it that you are having an identity crisis with only being introverted now?
No, I don't believe that is the problem. I'm used to being like this. However, the pandemic has made it very hard for me to revert to my old sociable self.
How have things changed for you, Miss Jade?
Well, even though the coronavirus has not been affecting us as much anymore, I still feel as if I go out too often or hang out with my friends, I will be susceptible to catching the virus. I am really scared to get sick or have something happen to me.
What other types of difficulties have you been experiencing?
I honestly am having a hard time going back to work also. We were given the opportunity to continue working from home or return to the office. To date, I have probably been to the office around 2 times. I am afraid to return as we had a number of COVID-19 cases within the workspace.
Does being outside or around people make you feel anxious lately?
Yes, it absolutely does. I can be outside having a great and wonderful time with my family and friends, then unfortunately, I'll remember COVID-19 and its negative side effects and feel the need to go back in my home right away.
Therefore, you are saying that this has prohibited you from being comfortable outdoors and with family and friends? Are you worried about what that will lead you to?
Well, if I ought to be honest, it has negatively impacted me. I am always uneasy in social situations. It is very difficult for me to also find someone I can bond with. Considering that the pandemic lasted a number of years, I was also unable to find a partner due to being isolated from the world, and I believe that it's time for me to find companionship. It is totally frustrating as I see my friends posting their partners all the time, and it gives me reassurance of my loneliness.
Have you had issues before finding a partner?
No, I have not. Though my past relationship were quite strained due to differences in views. My intention had been to find a partner before this all started. I had planned to achieve so many things, but COVID messed up everything. But I don't know if I am ready because of how I feel in public.
Considering that you are having these issues being a socialite, how did you feel about coming here today?
I am terrified. But thankfully I know that I need to understand what is happening with me so I can be myself again.
Thank you for opening up. I think it is great that you came here. There are a lot of things that can help you overcome what you are feeling at this time. Let's see how best we can understand Jade's situation. The use of Jung, Erikson and Gordon Allport's theories of personality will be used to help us analyze her personality and behaviors. Firstly, Jade's personality pre-COVID could be described as a balance between extroversion and introversion. Therefore, she can be described as an ambivert. Jade functioned well in both social and isolated environments. Unfortunately, due to the pandemic, there was a significant change in her social life. Since there was a number of restrictions implemented, Jade's social life outside her home was halted. Consequently, she became isolated to protect herself from contracting the virus. As a result, Jade adopted a preference for being at home. Social events no longer interested her as it did prior to the pandemic. Furthermore, it was noted that even though the restrictions were lifted, she still chose to be isolated. Carl Jung proposed that most of our conscious awareness in response to our environment is directed by rival mental attitudes, extroversion or introversion. He believed that our psychic energy can be directed either externally or internally. He further noted that each individual consists of both attitudes. However, only one attitude dominates a person's behavior and conscious awareness. It is evident that just as Jung proposed, Jade's introverted characteristics dominates that of her extroverted characteristics. Jung's theory notes that Jade's shift in personality is best explained by the equivalence principle. This principle states that energy can be shifted within personality. When this occurs, the psychic energy will be distributed elsewhere. Thus, Jade's psychic energy shifted from the goal of being sociable to reclusion. Moreover, applying Erik Erikson's psychosocial developmental theory to this case would be appropriate to assist in further understanding Jade's predicament. It can also aid me in guiding her intervention and treatment plan. Given that Erik Erikson's research is concentrated on the effects of the social interaction over the course of a person's life, it can be fundamentally used in support to fully grasp how the ramifications of the COVID-19 pandemic has influenced Jade's present course of life in terms of the negative changes to her personality and behavior. Erikson's theory is spearheaded by how social interactions and relationships influence human development and growth. Erikson's theory of psychosocial development is focused on 8 stages, which range from infancy to late adulthood and focuses on the resolution of various crises or tasks that a person faces at various stages of their lives. It further posits that after these crises are overcome, people grow a sense of competence and a stable personality because they would have successfully completed each developmental milestone. Whereas, feelings of inadequacies occur if these tasks are not conquered. Presently, due to Jade's age being 32 years, the stage that best corresponds with her is the 6th stage of Erikson's theory, intimacy versus isolation. This stage involves persons between the ages of 19 and 40 years. The primary conflict at this stage involves forming intimate and loving relationships with other people. At this point, success leads to satisfying relationships which are important for strong social support and physical and mental health. Whereas, struggling in this stage leads to feelings of loneliness and isolation which can affect their overall health. Furthermore, Erikson posits that intimacy is defined as having a strong, caring relationship. Though romantic and sexual relationships may be essential at this stage, intimacy in the form of having close, loving relationships are important. It can include intimate partners, but it can refer to long-term friendships with others not related to you. Thus, when applying this stage of the theory to my client Jade, some of the major conflicts I noted were Jade's anxiety towards social settings and relationships. I believed it has adapted her personality, shifting from an ambivert to solely introversion. She stated that going out and socializing with friends were enjoyable prior to the pandemic. However, the apparent risk of being infected by the virus superseded her need to conduct regular activities. Based on the guidelines implemented by the government, Jade opted to social distance from people and indicated these changes were necessary for her well-being and safety. As a consequence of this decision, she grew more introverted by isolating herself and having fewer social interactions. Jade also indicated that she was single, The implications of the pandemic further exacerbated this, as Jade has had no romantic relationships or intimate connections with anyone. It is clear that Jade is lonely and is experiencing anxiety and fear to get back into the world. Erickson notes that if intimacy is unsuccessful, it would result in isolation, causing a person to experience loneliness, hence the appropriateness of this theory to discuss Jade's circumstances. Jade later proves her feelings of loneliness as she expresses her emotions towards her friends having strong, lasting emotional relationships with their partners. Jade clearly wants to feel desired in a similar manner by having a relationship. Considering that Jade is 32, it is only natural for her to crave intimacy and companionships. However, isolating herself from the world due to anxiety would not help her achieve this. Furthermore, seeing that Jade previously identified herself as an ambivert, her losing her sense of extroversion and adopting social anxiety disorder is a major hindrance. SAD can take a toll on a person's ability to develop or establish relationships. This is due to not wanting to feel vulnerable or at risk, which is seen with Jade. Another theory that can be used to understand the development of Jade's personality is Gordon Allport's theory of personality. Allport defined personality as a dynamic function within the individual of those psychophysical systems that determine characteristic behavior and thought. He strongly believed that the uniqueness of an individual's personality is derived from both environmental and hereditary factors. Personality traits were critical in Allport's theory. He proposed that traits are distinguishing characteristics that guide behavior. It is measured on a continuum and is subjected to social, environmental and cultural influences. In relating Jade's current personality to Allport's theory, the alteration in her traits may be due to social and environmental changes. As previously mentioned, COVID restrictions created a significant shift in Jade's environment as she was unable to do a number of social activities. Consequently, the new environment could be a contributing factor to the change in her personality. He further posited that abnormal changes in the environment can lead to maladaptive behaviors. This is evident as Jade adopted social anxiety. Over the last 2 years, Jade as well as everyone else has been adapting to a new reality, living in an uncertain time, and constantly fearing the impact of a deadly virus on their own health and that of their loved ones. Isolating at home has become the new normal for Jade. Carl Jung regarded social anxiety as a positive attempt by the psyche to self-cure, for it is a signal that an aspect of one's character wants to grow and mature. When everyone was told to stay at home for safety reasons, the isolation made Jade adjust to her introverted side, resulting in her extroversion traits to be repressed or become undeveloped. When these undeveloped features are ready for change, then she experiences the pain associated with growing, known as social anxiety. For there can be no growth of the personality without it being paid for with an equal measure of struggle. Jung believed anxiety contains a lesson or a purpose which cannot be found elsewhere, and which holds an opportunity to get to know ourselves and our potential. Jade's role then is to withdraw into the inner world and discover what her discomfort is asking of her. In this case, it would be asking her to interact with people as she did before the pandemic. In order to achieve this transformation in consciousness, Jung advises that persons gradually expose themselves to that which they are fearful. When persons are anxious, it is usually because they have invented an artificial barrier between themselves and a desired outcome. However, that barrier is not real, rather counterfeit or delusion, even though it has power since it makes us hesitant and doubt. In order to overcome social anxiety, first you need to be willing to overcome it. Setting off to accomplish a task with part of you in total agreement is not going to work. You need to be fully on board with the task in order to be successful. Secondly, gradually allow yourself to experience what gets you anxious. Anxiety and even fear reduces when you experience something that you are afraid of. You did not learn to ride a bike by reading or thinking about it. You crashed, you fell, and you got hurt. There is no other way with a direct experience to ride a bike. The same should be done if you want to overcome social anxiety. This method is called exposure therapy, and it requires you to repeat contact with what you fear in a safe environment until the fear is extinct or minimized. For instance, if you are petrified to leave the house, you might begin by putting your head out the window, sitting on your veranda, or even walking around the garden or yard. In your case, Jade, you can start by visiting your parents or siblings if any, Then another day you can invite a close friend or family member to your favorite cafe, then the next day you can hang out on the beach with your friends and so on. You may feel your heart increasing right now with just the thought of exposure. Don't battle it. The battling is what causes suffering. Be mindful of your increased heart rate and shallow breathing. Be okay with it. Accept it. The discomfort experienced signals you change. Remember Jung's words. There is no coming to consciousness without pain. Whenever you feel discomfort, acknowledge it into a transformation. It is an evolution that is occurring inside of you that would produce a different result to what you did in the past. Remember, try and write down 3 to 4 things that you want to do that will allow you to interact with others. Start small and work your way up. Be patient with yourself and soon you would become more confident.
Thank you, doctor. I would try it and let you know. I need to be better. Thank you once more. I appreciate your help wholeheartedly. See you soon.
Feel free to visit or contact me anytime. Here we are seeing Jade after a week exercising what was explained to her in the therapy session. She is happy and going on dates and being with her friends.
Hi, how are you? Nice to meet you. You must be Jade.